is going on, Wolfpack Nation? We are here today, baby, for a doozy of an episode here. As we have here with us 2019 NCAA national champion from NC State, 184-pound Macchiavello. You guys all know too well by this point. We've had him on here. He's a friend of the show. I've had him a couple ons here. So, Mac, I know you're doing well today, man. Talk some NC State wrestling, man. I know it.
Yeah, nah, man. Life's good, man. I'm excited for these guys. They just finished the regular season ranked third in the coaches poll, which is a big deal, especially when you think about how young of a program that we currently have. I mean, we had such an awesome freshman class come in, and those guys are, if they're not in the starting lineup, they're working hard and they're pushing guys who are in the starting lineup. And then our upperclassmen and older guys are starting to come into their own. You get guys that are really starting to hit their stride. And so you're just excited, right? Guys that have been part of the program that are really starting to find success, that have looked the best they've ever looked. First two people come to mind are, Jared Trombley, who's really started to look phenomenal recently and is peaking at the right time. And I think he just looks incredible. And even a guy like Owen Treffin, who looks lights out right now. And so, I mean, I think the program is firing on all cylinders. And for them to finish the regular season ranked third in the coaches poll with such a young team and on a year that was supposed to be considered a year that we're going to be building, I think it says a lot about the program. It says a lot about the staff and Pat and Adam and Timmy and Kevin and Hayden and all the guys who are involved. And so I think it's a good time to be part of the Wolfpack. I think it's a good time to be an NC State wrestling fan. And
Absolutely.
The future is bright, man. The future is very bright.
Well, and obviously, obviously, if you hadn't figured out already, obviously we're going to be previewing the ACC Wrestling Tournament, which is actually going on at Reynolds Coliseum on Sunday all day. It starts at 11. Final starts at 7 p.m. So it's at Reynolds Coliseum Sunday. So make sure, if you haven't already bought tickets for that, make sure to go do that first and foremost, and let's pack out Reynolds. But so basically, we'll kind of be going through it here, kind of class by class here. But again, I mean, we'll kind of see how this goes here. But the first thing which I do want to hype on for sure, which just like Mark was saying, like looking at the team polls and that we're ranked third, and basically above us is Iowa at 2 and Penn State, which is at 1, which I think we all can agree that this year Penn State and Iowa is 2 classes above everybody else, and then it's the rest of us which are competing. Just Iowa and Penn State they're just ridiculously dominant this year. Penn State is definitely hands and tails the favorite to win it all this year. But hey, that doesn't mean that we can either tie.
I was just about to say, us Wolfpackers, man, we don't back down to nobody.
Absolutely not.
I don't care what the odds say. I don't care what the critics say. You know what I'm saying? So
I love it. Hey, well, and I think for me, honestly, that just like you were saying, that since so many of these guys are young, I think getting them that, because one thing which I want to point out is we only really have one guy who's starting for us right now. That's a senior, and that's Alex Faison. But we also have a couple other guys.
Who looks incredible right now.
Dude, what a huge win over Clay Loud.
Really
we'll definitely talk about that.
2-time All-American, and wasn't just a win. It was a dominant win. Controlled the match from start to finish. 6-1 lead, riding time point. I mean, across the board, just lights out.
Well, and especially too, I mean,
also North Carolina native. You know what I mean? He's repping the home state, man. So
for sure. Yeah, no, dude. I'm telling you, I've been so impressed with that guy, and especially too, going into that match, knowing that, Clay Loud had that meet scheduled, or had the meet circled, from the beginning of the season. And obviously, all the AC Network was talking about was, last year's, upset over Hayden Hidlay, and then we came in with a guy not Hayden Hidlay and beat him. And it's like, well, what do you guys say now? So I love that. I love that win for Alex. But I think the biggest thing, just like you were saying, since we only have one senior who's starting for us right now, is that this NCAA's would be a great opportunity to be competitive for sure. Have a couple of guys competing for All-American status, or even possibly a national championship as well. But really looking to next year, I think, is really the one which is like, okay, this could be the culmination of, like, definitely, hopefully, our best national finish ever for sure. But, again, that's one step at a time here. But, obviously want to kind of dive into ACC here. But just like you said, cannot agree enough. It's a great time to be an state wrestling fan for sure. So I want to kind of talk a little bit about Trombley. Obviously heading into the season, Camacho obviously was the guy last year, and then got knocked out with an injury that ended his season. Trombley went into it being the guy, and then came off kind of struggled at first during the non-conference, but then really once the conference season started, he really hit a stride, and then ending the season 4-0 in the ACC. So he's going to get the number one seed for the ACCs. Wanted to kind of ask you, what was your thoughts on him sitting out in the UNC match? Was that just because he already locked up the number one seed? Was that a injury thing? What's your kind of thoughts on that?
I don't think it's not injury related. He's
Okay,
perfectly healthy. He's ready to go. I think
okay,
it's just when you hit that point in the duel and you have that big of a lead, there's no sense in risking injury of your athlete, especially if we
got it.
kind of are in a good seating position. I think it's like we've already done our job tonight. Let's make sure that we can do our job again in 2 weeks. And so
Exactly, I like that.
that's what I think. It's not like I've had a personal conversation with the staff, but I am in the room every day with these guys and
Yeah.
wrestling with them, helping them, whatever. And so I think it was more of just a decision by the staff, and then also an opportunity to give an underclassman some mat time and some experience. And so I think all around across the board, it was just a good decision.
And really kind of the last thing which I want to touch on with this 125 is obviously right now Jarrett is ranked number 22, and then
Yep.
you got at 23 and 24 you got a guy from VT and a guy from North Carolina and Ventresca and Wagner. So to me, I feel like this is a big opportunity for Trombley, especially with next year. You got Camacho coming back. But you also, you have Kairini, who looks amazing, got 133 right now. So I feel like
Yeah.
that if Trombley is going to really try and make a case for him being the guy at 125 next year, this is going to be the time to do it. Would you agree with that synopsis?
Absolutely. And I think it doesn't matter what happens. I think Chombley has cemented himself as a guy who will come out and perform when the program needs him to. And I think
Mm-hmm.
the same is with Kai, and the same is with Camacho. I remember when I was coming up, um, the upper weight situation was just deep. We had
Right.
myself and Pete Renda, Malik McDonald, Michael Boykin,
Mm-hmm.
um, and we had several other guys too around that weight that were just really, really competitive. But I just remember training with those guys every day, and you show up to practice not on your P's and Q's, you're gonna get reminded. You're gonna go home thinking like, I actually need to make sure I get some good sleep tonight because I can't let
Yeah.
practice go like that again today. And it
Yeah.
it depended on the day where you're so competitive, and each of us are at a level where we're an asset. You think about when I redshirted, Pete Renda placed third at the NCAA tournament, and then
Mm-hmm.
when Pete redshirted, I was top 10, and I beat a top 5 guy, and I was the 10 seed at the NCAA tournament, lost around the 12. And then the following year, you have both of us at the same weight. But then you also have Malik McDonald and Mike Boykin, who are NCAA qualifiers and All American caliber guys. And so I think you're
Mm-hmm.
starting to see a situation here at the lighter weights where coaches have options, and
Yeah.
it's nice. It's nice.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, again, it's definitely not a bad problem to have for
Right,
sure.
right.
So and love what I've seen from Trombley, especially recently. He's really kind of come into I think a confidence that we've been wanting him to have for
Agreed.
sure. So I think especially if he can make a statement there with competing against a guy from VT, and then a guy from UNC. That could be definitely a turning point if he could pull that out there. Now 133, I think, is going to be one where Kai, again, he has some challenges for sure. I mean, Sam
Right.
Latona from Virginia Tech, I think, is definitely going to be going again. Number 6 overall in the country as the favorite for sure. But I know that Kai, I mean, again, he's another guy that's just really continued to get better and better and better. So I mean, I would not be surprised whatsoever if Kai could come out and take one away from Sam Latona whatsoever.
I think Kai definitely has that ability. I mean, I just always, when I think of Kai, the first place my mind goes to, or when anybody asks me about Kai, my first place my mind goes to is that match at the NCAA tournament against Dayton Fix where he wrestled lights out. He ended up losing the match, but there were some exchanges that he out wrestled and won positions that maybe some people didn't necessarily think he would be able to win, or just you wrestle a guy like Fix and you expect him to be dominant, and Kai had disqualified first. That was his first NCAA tournament, and you see him winning positions and out wrestling
Mhm.
certain positions. And yes, he still lost, but I mean, showed a lot of potential and kind of gave us a little glimpse into how high his ceiling is and what he can do when he's
Mhm.
firing on all P's and Q's on all cylinders
Mhm.
and kind of locked in, and ready to compete and when he believes in himself. I think that's the
Yeah.
biggest thing at this level is, do you believe in yourself?
Mhm.
Do
Yeah.
you believe you're good enough? Do you believe you can win? And I think ultimately that starts with your preparation, but at the end of the day, like you have to believe. And I think you're starting to see the, like you said, guys like Trombley start to really find this groove of
Mhm.
confidence, and I think just
Yeah.
honestly the team in general. So
Well, especially with Arini, I mean, like, the only loss he has in the ACC
yeah,
is when we faced Sam Latona at Virginia Tech on January 20th, and he only lost by a 3-1 decision. So, I mean,
yeah.
it was a neck and neck match the whole entire time. So, I mean, to me, I'm
And for
sitting here
those of you
going,
who don't know, he, Dayton Fix, the guy I'm referring to, is a world finalist. He's a returning
so,
world medalist. He may not be an NCAA champ because he's lost to Roman Bravo Young, but he's medaled at the senior level world championships, which is very difficult to do.
and which is so basically saying, I mean, it wasn't no bad
No
loss
slap.
necessarily.
Right,
Yeah, no,
right.
yeah, nothing to hang your head about.
Right. It was a type of loss where you come off of the mat, obviously disappointed because you're a competitor, but your confidence is even greater than it was before because now you realize, oh, I can hang with these guys.
Yeah. Yeah,
You know?
well, especially too, because I mean, Sam Latona and Kai are both sophomores, so I mean, I feel like this is going to be a matchup which state fans are going to know all too well by the
Yeah.
time their careers are done here at NC State for sure. So again, but you got number 6 Sam Latona, you got number 10 Mickey Philippi is, am I saying that
Yep.
name right?
Yeah.
From Pitt, and then Kai at number 14. So again, another doozy there, 133. But again, that will not be the last one here for sure. But got to move on to my boy Ryan Jack, though. This is a guy that, man,
Raj. Little
I I
Raj.
I I Raj, man, yeah, he's a guy which I'm excited about and I love. Like this guy,
Nice.
the thirst that this guy has to learn and to be
Yeah.
great, I think is crazy. Especially, and we talked about this during the post match interview I did with Ryan, and like basically saying like, do you ever like, kind of shy away from, people like comparing you to Kevin, or like when Kevin gives you, feedback and stuff like that, like, what's your kind of, I mean, and he honestly said like, listen, I'm just here to be the best and to, to make my own legacy and, to win national championships. And I love that answer. Like at the end of the day, whether that's, you comparing me to Kevin or whether that's me getting feedback from Kevin himself, like, listen, I'm all here for it. And simple as that. I mean, and you're seeing that now with him being ranked number 5 at 141 as a sophomore. I mean, the sky's the limit for this guy, in my opinion.
Agreed. And every time I watch Ryan wrestle, I mean, I think of Kevin, and I think
Yeah.
it's good. It's cool to see them interact with each other, just like when I see Hayden and Trent interact with each other. It's an awesome thing to have a brother, around that's doing the same thing, and even my little brother, right? He's on the team now, so that's
Right.
been cool. And
Andrew.
yeah, so I think Ryan has done an awesome job growing. I mean, the amount of maturity that I've seen from him this year and the growth that he's made as a leader, the fact that he
Mm-hmm.
was voted as a team captain by his peers should speak volumes about the type of growth he's made, not just on the mat, but off the mat. I mean, I think
Yep.
across the board, I mean, it's been awesome to see the amount of growth he's made in the
Yeah.
past 12 months. And so I'm excited for his NCAA tournament run, too.
Yeah. Well, and obviously with the ACCs, he'll more likely have to face Cole Matthews, who's number 3 right now from Pitt, and actually too. Let's take a pause 1 second. I do want to ask you, because I'll say that when we lost the VT duel, I pretty much kind of wrapped it up as, all right, hey, we didn't win the regular season. That's cool. We're gonna go win the tournament. It's gonna be cool. Like not a big deal. But then here we are, and we actually got a share of the ACC regular season title,
Yeah.
and I love it. I mean, not only
Oh,
just for
man.
the fact that we got a share, but to me, I love it that just like we've said it multiple times. Every single year, the ACC becomes more and more and more and more competitive, and now you're seeing that with like, you used to be just VT and NC State and then everybody else, but now Pitt has solidified itself, being up there with the rest of us. I mean, I love it. I mean, were you kind of surprised, at how things turned out? And then, I mean,
I was
what's your
surprised to
thoughts on it?
see Pitt beat Virginia Tech, but
Killed them.
afterward, yeah, and
Yeah,
and
they killed
it
them.
was definitely a surprise to me. I wasn't expecting that, but then also after the win, you kind of think about the amount of growth the program has made, and you think about how good of a job Keith Gavin has done with that program, and
Hmm.
um, it it's I mean it makes sense, you know. I mean they've done a really good job with the staff that they
Hmm.
have and the kids that they brought in. I mean they've had multiple guys in the NCAA finals
Hmm.
prior to that win as a duel and beating Virginia Tech. So I mean,
Right.
you know they're doing things right when they're putting not just one but two guys into the finals of the NCAA tournament. You know, so
Hmm.
um, it
Yeah.
doesn't necessarily come as much of a surprise. You know, I think after VTech beat us, you know, we didn't expect them to lose, which is where I think it comes from. But
Yeah. Yeah.
they've done a really good job up there.
Yeah, for sure. So, but kind of finishing off now, Ryan Jack. I think again, it's just he when he faced Cole Matthews from Pitt back on February 10th, lost by 4-2 decision. But again, another neck to neck match that could have gone either way,
Right?
and a
Yeah.
couple of close calls as well. That I know in my head that I'm still sitting here kind of scratching that should have gone our way, but it is what it is. So,
Yeah.
to me, it's again, it's going to be a story of this preview, but another one that it could go either way. Don't be surprised either way. And the most exciting thing on top of it is that again, Ryan Jack is a sophomore, Cole Matthews is a junior. So next year you're going to see the same exact thing. These two guys go at it again.
Yeah. And yeah, like you said, I mean, it's going to be a good matchup. And either
Yep.
way, this is all practice. You know, the tournament that matters most is the one that's a couple weeks after this. You know, it's the one
Mm-hmm.
that's in the third week of March. You know, no one's going to be talking about if you win an NCAA title, what happened, you know, 2 weeks before. You know, people are just going to be happy for you because
Sure.
it's such an awesome accomplishment. And so, but
Well,
it'll be good, man.
yeah.
It's just good preparation.
Before we continue, I want to take a quick second to tell you about our sponsor, Flatlands Jessup Insurance Group, that has your whole world covered, with agents in 5 offices throughout eastern North Carolina to help you decide how much coverage you need. Offering policies for home and auto, recreational vehicles, commercial, crop, health, life, and employee benefits. They are able to combine options to find a comprehensive solution that works for you. Flatlands Jessup protects the things you love so you can spend less time worrying and more time enjoying them. Find them on Facebook and Instagram at Flatlands Jessup. You can also visit their webpage at www.flatlandsjessup.com. So please make sure to go and check them out. Well, especially since but I feel like for me, since it's at Reynolds, it's like, okay, let's protect our own house. You know what I mean? I mean, we have all the benefit in the world. It's our own gym. You get to get dressed and get ready in your own locker room.
Yeah.
You get to
Sleep
play
in
in
your own
front of,
bed.
sleep in your own bed, play in front of mostly your fans.
Yep.
Like to me, it's, and I mean, because going into it, I mean, State's got to be the favorite for sure. So I
Right.
mean, like that's, I'm sitting here going, hey, like there should be no reason why we should let this tournament trophy slip from us. That's really where my head is. But I completely agree with you. At the end of the day, no matter what happens here, that everything is still on the table for us this year and especially next year. So
Yeah.
definitely not going to hang my head too much, especially since again there's so many close matches which are going to be happening this weekend. But want to move on to kind of one of our newer faces, Jackson Arrington, freshman,
Hmm.
149. Uh, Man, so let me ask you this first question because I haven't had a chance to ask you this. So in Jackson Arrington's match against Caleb Henson from Virginia Tech, all
Hmm.
right, when you know where I'm going with this, when he threw his headgear, was that a team point deduction in your head?
Um, I don't know. To be honest,
Okay.
I don't remember seeing the headgear throw.
Okay. All right. Cool. Well,
You know,
I
so
mean,
it's hard for me
so
to answer.
yeah, no worries. Well, I mean, again, I mean, basically, so because basically per the rule book, and again, correct me if I'm wrong. Per the rule book, if you throw your headgear after the match, technically that's straightforward a team point deduction. Am I correct on that evaluation, or
I
is it?
believe that's happened. Yeah, I
Yeah,
believe that's
yeah.
something that's
Well,
happened before.
and again, I mean, basically, definitely take a look back and let me know. But
Yeah.
really, like my issue with this again, it was a match that went to overtime, and
Yep.
then when he threw it at our bench. It wasn't like you threw it at Virginia Tech side.
Right.
So to me, like, I can understand if he was doing it as like, a taunting thing or something like that. But
Right.
everything he did was away from the bench. And it was a very emotional, very high intensity match. So to me, I feel like that was for the referees trying to stick their nose in when they didn't need to. Like there was no
Right.
reason for them to make an impact on, what could have been a huge point. Instead of getting 3 points, you're getting 2 points. Like in a Virginia Tech NC State match, that could be the difference maker.
It
So
could be.
that's
Yeah.
so that was kind of my issues. But yeah, definitely take a look back at that whenever you
I
can. Let me
will.
know. But
I will.
yeah. So what's been your thoughts so far on Jackson Arrington, man? What's really stood out in your eyes on this guy? That's really kind of felt like kind of stood out, make this guy stand out from you being so young, only a freshman.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think he's done a really, really good job kind of stepping into that role, especially as a true freshman,
Yeah.
not redshirting, straight out of high school,
Mm-hmm.
getting thrown right into the fire. And I think, honestly,
Mm-hmm.
it's one of the best ways to learn. It's one of the best ways to get your feet wet and figure out how to swim right away into the college grind. Because college it's a transition, man.
Right.
And I think he's done a really, really good job with the transition. Obviously, I know he has higher expectations for himself, and there's matches that he thinks that he would have wanted to have won. But at the end of the day, it's only going to be making him better. It only has made him better, and I think he'll continue to improve all the way to the end of March. So
Yeah.
overall, though, all my thoughts on him are incredibly positive.
For sure. Yeah. No, again, it's another guy just, that I feel like is just a normal thing for Pat Papalizio and Adam Hall, where they bring in guys that are not, needing to be, transition necessarily. I mean, they can easily, jump in here and, again, get to, number 17 overall in the country, which as a true freshman, and especially in especially since in the ACC, we have a guy ranked in the top 30 for every single school except for Duke. So Virginia, North Carolina, Virginia Tech, and Pitt all have a guy ranked in the top 30. So I mean, Jackson Ayrton, I mean, every single match in the ACC did not, had a challenge to face for sure. So, I think it says a lot that, he was up to the challenge, and again, very respectable 4-1 record in the ACC. So, definitely excited for what this guy can do. But the interesting thing though, too, is that Virginia Tech has their own freshman at 149 and Caleb Henson, number 8. So
Yeah.
again, it's like, man, now like that, those two guys are going to see each other plenty of times here, plenty of times for the rest of their career. So, I mean, let me ask you this: like, do you feel like that is beneficial more for the fans? But I mean, I feel like if you're the wrestlers, it I think it, man, like it really raised that intensity, knowing that I've seen this guy plenty of times, and so it kind of puts a lot of pressure on that. You really want to kind of get one either way, because man, like it's a head game. I feel like if you're facing each other that many times in your career.
I mean, it's tough. I mean, I think about me and Zach Zavatsky when I was at 184. I beat him once. He beat me once. Once in the duel,
Mm-hmm.
I won, and then at the ACC finals, he beat me, my redshirt junior. And then I think about Jared Hott, who beat me in the duel. He
Mm-hmm.
won against me in the ACC finals, and then we wrestled again in the NCAA finals, and I won. And I think anytime you have two competitors who are elite athletes who are always going to be figuring out how to improve and how to learn, the match is a toss for every time, and I think it's going to be a dogfight every single time. And I think that's what's exciting about it for fans is, it's going to be fireworks every time these guys compete, and that's what you want
Mm-hmm.
to see.
Yeah.
So, but even then, I think about a guy like Jackson. All these guys that we're talking about who are starters, there are guys who aren't in the starting lineup right now who are competitive, who are working really, really hard to capitalize on an opportunity that could present itself to them also. And so
Yeah.
that's a good thing too. I think about a guy named Finn Solomon who just won this past weekend at the Open
Right.
Tournament with Chase Horn, who's doing a really good job. Who's also the same way. And I think I just think there's a lot to be excited about when you think of NC State wrestling. And
Yeah.
but you did mention Caleb Henson and Jackson, and both those guys are good wrestlers, man. And I think
Yeah.
they're only going to continue to get better.
For sure. Now, the one thing which I want to go ahead and clarify. So I actually got the incident mixed up between our two freshmen. So the headgear throw was actually in Matt Singleton's match, not
Ah,
Jackson Erickson. So that might help when you take a look back, because I took a look back and Jackson Erickson actually won at Virginia Tech, and so I was like, oh, and won 6-1 actually. So yeah, he beat no, Caleb Henson beat Jackson Harrison 6-1. So that wasn't the match. So yeah. So just FYI for those listening and be like, wait, that didn't happen. That's I had to clarify that. So apologize on that. But so for the last weight class here that we're going to cover in this part, so the 157, which has definitely been a fun one for sure this year. Obviously highlighted by Austin O'Connor from UNC, Bryce Donian from Virginia Tech, and then Ed Scott from NC State. Uh, man, like every single time any of these three guys have faced off, it's been a fun one to say the least for sure. So let me ask a first question. When because I know, did you watch the UNC match, the whole UNC match?
I did. I missed a couple of the matches, but I saw all the way from heavyweight to the finish.
Okay, so did you see the thing that Austin O'Connor did after beating Ed Scott?
I
Did
did
you?
where he did
Yeah, the
the
wolf hand and then cut it.
what?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
which I think this
So
is the Texas Longhorns
well, see, that's the
thing.
thing is that he did
I
like
think he
that or
did it
something
wrong.
like that. He did it
Yeah,
wrong. Yeah, he
you
didn't he
need
didn't do
the
the nose. Yeah, yes, yeah, he
yeah.
did like that and then cut it. So I mean, so basically my thoughts on it was, I mean, hey, whatever, you do you won the match. I mean, but I mean, tell me from a
I
from a
think
wrestler side. I mean, do you think,
yeah.
because like one thing which I want to point out, which I always gave you respect for, is that whenever you won, you were. I mean, like I remember when you beat the Ohio State guy. I mean, you yelled, you screamed, but then you brought back down, shook the
Yeah.
guy's hand, and walked away. So you always very respectful. Never really
So
taunting or something like that. But what's
yeah,
your thoughts on it? Yeah.
and I try to be respectful, and for that specific example, it was less about, oh, I don't want to be taunting, and it was more about, I don't want to celebrate something that doesn't mean anything,
I like that.
because yeah, and okay, sure, you want to duel me against a guy who's ranked number one in the country, but that's not what you trained for. That's not what your
Yeah.
focus is. It's not what your goal is. Your goal is to be an NCAA champion. So there's nothing to
Mm,
celebrate. Job's not
love it.
finished. And
I
so,
like that.
when I started to celebrate, I'm like, let me calm myself down and make sure I don't get too excited, because this isn't what I was trying to accomplish. What I was trying to accomplish is still a couple weeks away, and I still need to make sure that I'm focused and locked in for that. And so, if you notice at the NCAA tournament when I got a pin in the semis, I celebrated and I didn't try and calm myself down, because it was the right time and it was the right place. So
Okay. Cool.
so that for that specific example, I think there is a component of respect that you should have for your opponent, because I just think that's how you should be. But I also think
Yeah.
we're approaching an age where celebrating isn't necessarily a bad thing, especially if we all understand that it's not a personal thing. I think
Hmm.
it's a competitive thing. Like,
Yeah.
being able to let your emotions go is not necessarily the worst thing in the world when there's so much sacrifice, commitment, discipline, passion
Hmm.
that's involved. And so I think the celebrating is not necessarily a bad thing. I don't think he's, taking a dish at Ed. I don't think it was necessarily like, I think he's just trying to, look cool and,
Yeah. But do you, I mean, so
whatever.
basically you're saying even, because I mean, obviously that was beyond celebrating. That was
It
direct
was.
taunting. So,
It was. It was. And I think
so,
honestly, something like that would fire me up even more personally.
well,
So if
see,
I'm Ed Scott
exactly.
and someone does that to me, I'm like, oh, I hope we wrestle again. So eh,
Yeah.
if it makes
Yeah.
Ed compete better, is it the worst thing in the world?
Nope.
And that's not necessarily what he's trying to do, but I
Hmm.
think that's just part of sports. If someone's talking trash to me on the mat or talking trash to me on a pickup basketball game, my level's going to elevate, and
Yeah.
that's just the reality of what it is. And I think when you have something that does that for the athletes, it makes the experience even better for the fans, because now you're seeing guys approach a level that maybe they wouldn't have reached if that wasn't a part of the equation,
Right.
And so I think it's just better for sports. It's making us talk.
True.
We're talking about it now, and I think the
True.
more things you can do that get fans talking about the sport, the better it is for the sport.
That's true.
So it
Amen to
just
that.
depends on the perspective that you have, and I think the game's changing a little bit with social media, and I think wrestling's at a place now where we're kind of at an inflection point where we've grown.
Hmm.
But if we want to continue to grow and hopefully one day be like a revenue sport or a mainstream sport, like we need
Right.
things that are going to be exciting for the fans.
Yeah. No, especially again, I mean, it's growing and growing. And again, I mean, like to me, it's just like you said, it's something that was talked about. I mean, I know that like all I did was basically, got a snippet of him doing it. And I just said, noted, not necessarily being like,
Right. And I
like
love
that,
that
that
piece
was
of
bad.
content. I love that piece of content because it fires up NC State fans, and we're all like,
Yeah.
"Oh!"
Well,
It creates a story. It creates a story.
because all I'm saying is, okay, noted. Like,
All right,
okay, you did that.
bet,
Good to
bet,
know. Sounds good.
yeah.
Now,
We're gonna
now,
keep the receipts for the ACC tournament. But
exactly.
but look at what that does. It creates a story. It makes the
If they
match more.
faced again, if they faced
It
again.
makes the match more
Hmm.
marketable. I mean, there's a lot of
Hmm.
positives that come from something like that too. When you think
Yeah.
about it from the other side.
Yeah. So to kind of wrap up, Ed Scott, I mean, because I mean, again, all these guys are ranked in the top 8. So to me, it's just, wait and let's see what happens. And no matter what, it's going to be a great match no matter what. So just, buckle up and enjoy it. But, obviously Ed Scott lost to Austin O'Connor. So, so what are your kind of thoughts in terms of what does Ed Scott maybe need to improve on to be able to pull the upset against Austin O'Connor?
I think Ed knows. He's my roommate actually, so
Oh, cool.
I live with Ed. So we talked about it a little bit, and I know he's talked with staff about it a little bit also. So I think he'll be ready to go. But sometimes when you have a matchup like that, like it's just little mistakes, little errors. It's either missed opportunities or a mistake that you made that cost you the match, especially when it's that close and it's
Yep.
against guys who don't make a lot of mistakes.
Right. Yeah. No, absolutely. So again, just buckle up and enjoy Wolfpack Nation. That's all we'll say that. And especially too, because Ed Scott lost to both Bryce Andonian and Austin O'Connor. So I think he's going to have a ton of fuel heading into the ACC tournament, and looking
Absolutely.
forward to seeing that. So with that being said, we're going to take a pause there and then we'll pick up with 165 in part 2, y'all. But make sure again, if you haven't already, again, this Sunday, it's an all day thing at Reynolds Coliseum. Make sure to go buy tickets. I think they're only about like $20 a ticket. So again, very, very cheap for an all-day affair that you'll get access to. Make sure to go check it out. Again, there will be a ton of amazing AC wrestling content that you will not want to miss out on. And you'll see people like myself. I know you'll see Mock there. I know you'll see other former NC State wrestlers there
I'll
as well.
actually
So
be
it'll be fun.
commentating. Conci
Oh, you'll be
semis,
commentating. Let's go.
Conci semis, and Conci finals.
Let's go. Okay, see, so they're even better. So he'll be there and then some for sure. So make sure to tune in for part 2, y'all. And make sure you do not miss out. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, and also too, if you wouldn't mind, hit that like button if you're excited for NC State wrestling, baby. And also too, give us a follow, Tuffy Talk Now on Twitter and Instagram. We'll see y'all for part 2. As always, go Pack, y'all.